Thanks for being here again for meditation talk. Sifu is still, well, actually he's not out of town. He's back in Los Angeles, but he's very likely sleeping because he traveled for 24 hours without sleeping. So he's very likely sleeping now. So I'm Miss Macy. I'm one of the staff members here at the School of Martial Arts, and it's my pleasure to be able to speak this evening. Definitely a privilege. And I chose something today to talk about, which it took me a little bit of time to think about this. And I like that because, you know, that's kind of what meditation talks are supposed to be. It's like some thought gets put into them and you connect to some dots that you haven't necessarily connected before. And I was thinking about maybe talking about the question of the week, which is, you know, if you had one wish, what would you wish for? And I'm like, okay. It didn't seem super interesting to me in terms of where I could take that. So I decided to do something different. And I chose The Art of Peace to choose something from, because this is one of the books that we have in the dojo. And if you haven't read it, it's an awesome book by Washiba. And I just kind of randomly went to a page and chose something and read it and liked it and thought, this is worth a meditation talk. I'm going to talk about this. So there's just when you read this book, there's just short little passages to read. And it's one of those sorts of books where you could read it in probably half an hour because that's the amount of time it would take to actually read all the words. But it's worth not reading it in that way. It's worth reading it in short bursts so that you read one of the things that they've written and think about it for a while. So that's what we're doing. So this little paragraph here says, the totally awakened warrior can freely utilize all elements contained in heaven and earth. The true warrior learns how to correctly perceive the activity of the universe and how to transform martial techniques into vehicles of purity, goodness, and beauty. A warrior's mind and body must be permeated with enlightened wisdom and deep calm. And I read that and I thought, wow, that's really cool. You know, it's like to be permeated with enlightened wisdom and deep calm is definitely something that I aspire to. Like, that's something that you can like really get your teeth into and like go, wow, yeah, that would be awesome. And you know, I don't know very many people who can say that they are in that state, and certainly not 100% of the time. You know, it's something that I feel like as human beings, we're almost by definition not that. And so to have our journey be part of the path towards that is kind of cool. It's really, it's neat. And I certainly say there's a quote from Richard Bach, which says, you teach best what you most need to learn. So I'm thinking that this is the part that I most need to learn, is this part of being truly calm and having the enlightened wisdom, because I certainly do not feel like I embody that in any way. Well, maybe like in the tiniest grain of sand way, but certainly not in the ocean of the desert way. So it's interesting, I think, to take a look at it from the opposite side of that you're enlightened and you have all of this calm wisdom and all the rest of it. And I came across this quote today. I was reading a different book called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman, which is about time management for mortals. And in that book, he has a quote from Nietzsche. And Nietzsche says, we labor at our daily work more ardently and thoughtlessly than is necessary to sustain our life, because to us it's even more necessary not to have leisure to stop and think. Haste is universal because everyone is in a flight from himself, or I would say obviously also herself or their self or whichever pronouns you're using. But it's Nietzsche's pointing to the fact that we run away from ourselves because we have all these thoughts in our head and all of the busyness and the I don't want to be exactly how I am because that's scary and I don't want it to be that way. I want me to be a different way because I'm not perfect. And it's like the human condition to be in that space of not being perfect and the human condition to be upset about that and mad about that and like it shouldn't be this way. And yet, Shiva is saying that we must be permeated with enlightened wisdom and deep calm. So how do we go from that place of being, I'm running away from myself, to I'm perfectly okay with myself and who I am and how I interact with the world? And there's a lot that Sifu talks about. Put the book down. There's a lot that Sifu talks about in this whole arena, if you like, in terms of what is it that we can do to allow ourselves to be who we are in the moment, every single moment, and how can we take that into our totally awakened warrior state? How can we be that? And one of the concepts that comes back to many times is this concept of striving without striving. And you've heard Sifu talk about that before, where we're trying to get to a place or we're trying to be the best that we can, and at the same time we can't be striving to get there because the effort of doing that means that you're not actually doing it. It's paradoxical, and it is a great place to be, I think, when you're in that space of I'm trying to get away from myself. Like, I don't like this part of me that's something's not quite right part. If you can step aside from that and be in the space of I am calm and I am exactly who I'm meant to be, exactly not what I'm not meant to be, and be in that space of who you are right here and right now. And and being in that space of like Vaisheva says, is to listen to the universe and do what the universe is calling you to do in that moment in time, right? So there's the dichotomy of running away from myself and versus the being with myself. And then there's also the part of being able to strive for the being with myself part. And yet I can't do that unless I'm being with myself. And it's the whole circular thing, right? Thank goodness everything moves in circles. So it just exploring this whole idea and the whole thought around how to be a totally enlightened, totally awakened warrior. And like just how do you do that? And how do you bring the beauty? How do you bring the purity? How do you bring the aliveness and the awakenedness to yourself in every single moment? And really the only way to do that that I know of is to be 100% mindful and present all the time. And I know I'm not. I wish I was. But it's something that we can all strive for, and we can all like go back to our breath and come back to what is it that I'm experiencing right now? What's happening in the universe right now, around me right now? And what's the proper response to that? As opposed to being in your head about, you know, this should happen and that should happen, and therefore I should be doing this and I should be doing that. Whereas in a martial artist sense, that's like me saying with my partner, oh, they're about to throw a front kick at me. I better get ready to get out of the way of doing the front kick. And after that, doing that, I'm going to do a knife hand, and like thinking through what might be about to happen. Whereas, in fact, as a martial artist, you're just waiting to see what the universe provides for you. And if the universe provides a front kick for you, then you get to do a side step, you know? It's like, what's the universe giving me right here, right now? And then what do I do with that? Like, what's the instinctive thing for me to do? What is it that happens? And how do we train ourselves, not just in here in the dojo in martial arts, but how do we train ourselves out there in life to respond to what is, and to be with what is, and to take the what is and respond appropriately to that, rather than to what we think should happen or what we think shouldn't happen, and allow ourselves to be propelled forward by the universe calling us into action. So as we think about all of that, we can stop thinking about it now, and we can be with who we are right here, right now. We can be with our little niggles. We can be with, needing to move, needing to breathe. We can be with giving ourselves some time to sit and be with who we are, what the universe has provided for us right here, right now, which is to take a moment of time and to sit and to meditate and allow ourselves to sink into who we truly are right here, right now. So let's sit and we'll meditate. Thank you.